Welcome, dear friends, to Kardec Radio. We are here live. One more day, nourishing our souls together. Kardec Radio in more than 100 countries, with several hosts around the world, providing and sharing voluntarily the teachings of Spiritism, which give us new light in this life. Right? And you're welcome to join us. Today we're remaking the chapter 6 of part 2, Justice in the Spiritual Realm, because this chapter had some sound problems. Now we're repeating. So we welcome all of you who are joining us in this beautiful effort to wrap up the beautiful study of the book Evolution into Worlds. The book Evolution into Worlds was written in 1958 through the hands of two mediums, Chico Xavier and Valdo Vieira. In 6 months, the book came to life. And it's a phenomenon in itself. It's a masterpiece. And it's a book that comes to console ourselves. It's not knowledge for knowledge, but to awaken in us the fire of hope and the consciousness that we are immortal beings. And that can trim our things to make sure that we adjust ourselves to the divine law, right? This topic, justice in the spiritual realm, talks about life. Before we begin, let us say a short prayer. Why? Because we are not alone. The good spirits have been guiding Kardec Radio in these 11 p.m. studies for 2 years. It's been 2 years that we have been doing this effort, several books, several messages, and they use this moment not only to guide all of us, but also to treat us. Yes, in our minds, in our emotions. So when we voluntarily join forces to pray together, we are instruments of well-being and wellness, not only to ourselves, but those who live with us, both incarnates and discarnates. Welcome back, friends. So let us pray together, shall we? We are grateful, dear Mother, Father God, for you have granted us the unique opportunity of being together through these technological means in different countries, continents, allowing us to receive new illumination while being cared for and becoming, sometimes unnoticingly, instruments of love to others in our lives. May we all share the much you have granted us and feel ever more responsible to multiply the gifts of life so we can partake in the co-creation at greater levels. We rejoice in these teachings of the Promised Consoler, and we're especially thankful to our Master Jesus for bringing to us the illumination that changed our lives forever. May this last study be of joy, hope, boosting also our courage to help others, and so be it. Are you ready? Welcome, welcome. So today we're studying chapter 6, part 2. It's about justice in the spiritual realm. André Luiz begins this chapter by talking about a topic that is of our great interest. How does the mechanism of justice work in the spiritual plane? We all know that there are many people who are afraid of death because they feel they're going to be judged and they feel they're going to have to face their deeds. Is that so? How does that work? Are there judges in the afterlife? Is there a court in the afterlife? Am I going to be judged? Well, we can't forget that you and I have already lived time and again and discarnated many times. And those experiences were peculiar in each and every existence. Now, we're going to bring to our own consciousness how Spiritism addresses it. But before I enter the question and answer of our dear um, Andrea Lewis, I want to remind you that you can also go to the Spirit's book in your phone. There is this Kindle version, and you can quickly go there and browse these questions that are peculiar to this. And would like to talk especially about justice. Before we enter Andrea Louis' development of the teaching, let's go to the Spirit's book, and I'm going to do it on purpose to show to you how quickly you can assess a question in the Spirit's book. I just opened a book. I'm going to go to the preface. Either there is a search bar and I type in justice and see all that is related to justice in the Spirit's book by Kardec, or I go straight to the third part where there is written law of the last law, the law of justice, love and charity. It says, there you go. Then I click, boom, chapter 11, part 3, and then question and answer 875. How may justice be defined? Since we're talking about justice, and André Luiz, as a spirit is spirit, he brings to us the spirit's take on it, right? Let us see how the foundation of Spiritism defines justice. The loving spirits of the beyond replied, justice consists in respecting the rights of every person. Are you surprised? First time I read this many, many years ago, I was surprised because we think justice is about just God and I, and that's it. But it involves others as well. Some people, they say and claim, oh, it's my life, I do what I like. Not necessarily. We all have our influence onto each other. So what I decide will affect people at some point, sooner or later. So we need to be conscious and conscientious of our social impact. After all, we're all immersed in the divine plasma. You know it. We've studied it in chapter 1 of the book Evolution in Two Worlds. We're immersed in the divine plasma like fish in the ocean. So whatever happens to me will affect others. Does that mean you're not going to make a decision in your life because it's going to have an impact? No. But as long as it's a healthy impact, we're good to go. And healthy doesn't mean people are going to clap and approve of us. No. It means that it will be beneficial in the long run for people as well. Okay? Even if they do not understand. That's Jesus modeling for us. He did so many things that people at his time didn't agree, were infuriated, were upset, and yet he did it not to upset anybody, but he did it because he is fulfilling God's will. Okay? Two different things. So Kardec asked what we define as justice. The loving spirits replied, justice consists in respecting the rights of every person. And then Kardec opens a sub-question in that, question 875, and asks, what determines those rights, the rights, right, of every person? Answer, they are determined by two things, human law and natural law. Because humans have established laws that are appropriate for their customs and character, such laws have established rights that vary with progress. Though your current laws are not perfect, they do not consecrate the same rights as the laws of the medieval era, for instance. Even though those rights seem monstrous to you and are now obsolete, they seem just and right at the time. Therefore, the rights established by humans do not always conform to justice. They only regulate certain social relations, whereas in private life, there are a huge number of actions that are the exclusive jurisdiction of the court of conscience. Wow, now we got to it. And that's now how we're going to merge onto Andre Luiz' take on it, shall we? And I'm not going to say it's his opinion, we're just going to say he is the instrument of this unfoldment, the continuation of what we're reading in the Spirit's book. So let's go back and see how he begins to address this very question. How does the mechanism of justice work in the spiritual plane? So again, Kardec revealed to us what the good Spirit said. Justice is about respecting the rights of every person. And those rights are inscribed in our conscience. Also, question and answer 621 of the Spirit's book. André Luiz then begins by replying. He says, certainly in the spiritual world, the authority of justice works with enhanced security. So, as you can see in the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec, they talk about two elements, the human, right? They say the human and the natural law. So here André Luiz is talking about mechanisms. So he reinforces, he says, yes, we need that human side. Do you think that human side is only in the physical? No, it's also in the spiritual. Yes, there are courts in the physical and in the spiritual. But we can't forget that the real deal, the natural law, is inscribed in each of our consciences. So the mechanisms as he's going to unfold is going to pertain to both the human and the natural, meaning the divine. We partake in the process of the making of justice. So that's what he calls enhanced security. He continues. Okay, so let's see. Teresa Castro is saying, I always thought of justice as fairness, and now with spiritism explanation, I'm being fair when I respect others. Exactly. Thank you for highlighting it, Teresa. You know, it's important that we stop and make a pause in that regard. So it's about respecting others. So if somebody decides to do something, God gave them free will. We have to respect. That doesn't mean we're going to prove, we're going to let it loose. No, but we're going to say they have their chance trying it out. Is that why Jesus never knocked? Is that why Jesus never knocked on Caesar's door, right? The Roman emperor's door and said, "Excuse me, huh? You're messing up. What is going on here? I'm the governor of the planet. I created this, and now you're ruling the world, and you are messing up with everything. No, 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 bad boy, bad girl, you're grounded." Jesus didn't do it. He didn't enter the temple and said, remember in the book of News, when in chapter 2 we know the unfoldment of that conversation when Jesus appears to the public. I mean, he wants to be noticed that he is already publicly active, let's say this way, quote unquote. So Hanan, as one of the Pharisees, approaches him, and he's seated by the stairs of the Pharisaic temple in Jerusalem. And they ask, Galilean, what are you doing here? And he says, I came here to implement the kingdom of God on earth. And then there is a conversation that involves sarcasm, irony, some form of bullying, and Jesus keeps his cool, addresses it all, but he doesn't disrespect Hanan and puts him down and dethrone him or whomever else. No. He comes as a sower, somebody who loves and is just. Hanan had his right, thinking the way he did, respecting people's different ways. But on the other hand, Jesus also had his right, but he respected others' rights. So he was the full expression of somebody who fulfilled God's law, including the law of justice, by being respectful to people's rights, the way of being. Okay? So, what else does Andre Luiz reveals to us? Okay, you see, everything goes hand in hand with the foundation of Spiritism in the Spirit book. Well, he continues by telling us the following. However, we know that the mechanism of regeneration, first and foremost, prevails in the conscience of the individual. Observe the expression, mechanism of regeneration. Why is he talking about regeneration here, right? He's saying that inevitably, because we have the right to choose, we will make mistakes because we're learning, and it's foreseen in the laws of God that we are going to try in different ways. So we are allowed to make choices that may not be the optimal ones, yet they are learning mechanisms. And there is an inbuilt system in which we're going to reset. We're going to regenerate, recalibrate ourselves. It's like the GPS that we have in our cars, in our phones. It is prepared to recalculate. The people, the engineers of the app, Google Maps, MapQuest, they could foresee that at some point we're going to make a wrong turn. So they already built the program of that app to reroute when we didn't turn on the right side. And God also, because he created us, sustains us, knows that at some point we are going to make a choice that is not exactly the best route. And we'll have to reroute, recalculate. And that's what Andre Luiz is referring to here. That movement of regeneration, the rerouting, the recalculation, so we can take the right turn. Okay? That's what it is. So he's talking about the movement of I have the right of choosing, of being, and yet I'm immersed in this divine plasma. We are interdependent. It's gonna affect also the whole. Thus, if I don't take the right turn, I need to adjust myself. And that adjustment will begin within ourselves, in our conscience. So see how this is going hand in hand, side by side, in true alignment with the teachings of Kardec. Because the Good Spirit said, the rights established by humans do not always conform to justice. If you look at humankind's history, you're going to see it in both realms. Or you think courts only exist in the physical realm? Whatever exists here is a reflection of what happens in the spiritual. Rough reflection, but it is. They only regulate certain social relations, whereas in private life there are a huge number of actions that are the exclusive jurisdiction of the court of conscience. And that's precisely what André Luiz is referring here. He's saying the foundation of it all is in our conscience. Pause. Let's feel it, huh? Breathe in and out. You and I need to breathe in and out and ask ourselves, am I listening to the GPS? You know, there are many people who drive, they put on the GPS and they don't listen to the GPS. They are distracted. It's a turn right, reroute, recalculating. 10,000 recalculations and they keep making a mistake because they're distracted, because they are doing this, that, and the other. Or they simply say, no, I have a better route, but they keep allowing the app to go on and on and on. I've seen it many times. And that happens in our lives. We know something is not appropriate and we keep going to that direction. We keep going to that direction, especially because the human law is not going to do anything. And then boom, our conscience speaking up on every move. At some point, it's going to stop us. Is that so? Let's see. We are borrowing now question 642 of the Spirit's book to amplify this discussion. The good spirits say everyone must do good to the best of their abilities. And everyone will answer for all the evil that has resulted from the good they left undone. I think this is one of the most important rules for a happy life, for a life that is up to date with our conscience. Some people say, well, Vanessa, what do I do if everything is inscribed in my mind? What is the route? Simple. Question 642 of the Spirit's book. We need to do our best. And if we don't do something, we leave something undone, the evil that resulted from it, from the good that it was not done, we will be responsible for it. We will be responsible for it. And why are we emphasizing this? Because the good works are an invitation for all of us. But I know many people who claim, oh, who am I? I'm not good enough. Or who am I? I'm not X person. Or who am I? I am not that capable, etc. So they don't do. And people even invite them. Can you come and do this? Can you come and help? And they say, no, but not me. So that gap that was not filled in by us is going to generate some form of problems, issues, and unnoticingly, we're co-responsible for that. So we need to understand how this inbuilt court system works. It's inside of us. And it operates over minute details, feelings, thoughts, words, and actions. To the point that Leon Denis, in the book After Death, reinforces the teachings that we learned since Kardec's time in the Spirit's book, in the Genesis, and he rephrases it. Every thought, every feeling, every work, every word, and every action is going to be memorized, imprinted in our perispirit. But I was just thinking, but I was just saying, but I was just doing, but I was just feeling. Just doesn't explain. Just doesn't do it. It's about we're doing it, we need to manage it and adjust it, just like a GPS. There's a route, and if we don't do it, but I was just turning here. Well, the app is so sensitive. You turned, but it's recalculating. It knows that we have deviated. So we cannot deceive our conscience. And that's where our humility is lacking, because it's the divine constitution inside of us. And what do? We say, no, but I'll make my own law. Like many people play, the human law presides. And that's not true. At the end of a life, the laws that I create will never overshadow the laws of God that are inside of us. And that's why we need an external help. Law of society. Now, we're going to go back to André Luiz. Be prepared, because we're talking about the mechanisms of justice, and we're going to learn that when we're not capable of listening to that rerouting, the mechanisms of regeneration, that recalculation and adjust ourselves, we'll need an external hand, law of society, in both realms of life to help us regenerate and readjust. So do not be surprised now that we're going to talk about courts in the spiritual realm. Okay? Don't be afraid. Don't be desperate. Just think, as much as we need human law to secure our progress on earth, we also need enhanced security in the true life, which is the life in the spiritual realm, to secure order and progress for all. Okay? Rihanna is saying this is a very important lesson for us to meditate about. Are we on route with our roadmap? Beautiful question, Rihanna. Good, beautiful statement. Dulce is saying this question makes me think so much about my actions and non-actions, my responsibilities and its impact on others. It took me 30 years to learn. Was that how beautiful, Dulce? It doesn't matter. We are on it, learning every day together, right, friends? So now we are going to understand. So he says, first of all, it's here. But what if I do not listen? I do not pay attention to it. I need society, because we live in society. We are not alone. We need others to help us saying, look, what you're doing is affecting others. We need to help you reroute your life. That's why André Luiz now is going to touch that subject. Okay? Don't feel judged or afraid. Just understand, as he says here, we have here in the spiritual realm, he's saying, shrines and courts in which worthy and impartial judges examine the human responsibility, weighing their merits and demerits. Let us observe what he says. We have impartial judges, those who really care. Like physicians in the spiritual realm, we have judges. Yes, who need to assess what we're doing and the impact because we have a responsibility. Do you remember when we studied the chapter Word and Responsibility in the book Evolution into Worlds? Luiz reveals to us that when we learn how to put our thoughts and feelings into words at human level, responsibility was born. And we don't know. And nowadays, we have Facebook, and sometimes we do not regulate our behavior in our social media. And we start saying whatever we like, but we forget that it has an impact. Each one of us here has a form of influence, like the size of our aura and its magnetic effect onto others. It may vary from person to person, but inevitably, all of us affect one another. Even a plant in your bedroom, in your house, a plant without consciousness, but a spiritual principle that is animating that body of a plant affects your life, my life, your breathing. So, how come we as humans are not going to ponder my zone of influence and my responsibility? If I am unaware of it, there is a shrine and a court in the spiritual realm that is going to help me. But who is going to help? They are going to help us ponder, saying, look, let's wait it out, right? So now we feel more secure. Remember, this book is about consolation, okay? Sometimes people feel awkward in their lives or feel abandoned. They feel lonely, but we shouldn't. Because we are learning with Luiz that at any level in our life, in society, in both realms of life, we're being cared for, including in the Department of Justice. We have loving and impartial judges that will be pondering our responsibility and our merits and demerits to know where we're going to go next. Think about a school, college, for example. In the United States, we have counselors, right? They help the students ponder their merits and demerits, their credits, right? And their potential. So they recommend, I think you should do this, you should do that, tarari, tarara. It's just like that. Okay? So what else? Thank you, Gabriel Inácio, for your kindness too, and for joining us. So Luiz continues, yes, and there is a jury. In many cases, he says, the organization of the jury is necessarily observed. So, because of what we do impacts the bigger picture, we have other people who will be pondering that impact. And it needs to be so. It needs to be so. If we go back to the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec, in the question that follows the one that talks about justice, the good spirits answer to Kardec by reminding of a Jesus teaching, do unto others whatsoever you would have them do unto you. God has placed in the human heart the rule of all true justice through the desire that all deserve to see their rights respected. If you are uncertain of what you should do for your neighbor in any given circumstance, ask yourself, what you would want your neighbor to do to you in a similar situation. God could not give you a safer guide than your own conscience, right? Mhm. And then, of course, he talks in the following questions and answers about our obligations, responsibilities, and how inevitably there is what we call social awareness, social intelligence. Did you know that that type of intelligence exists? Exactly. And there are levels. As much as there is the IQ, we also have our social intelligence. Emotional intelligence pertains to the realm of social intelligence. So we need to boost that type of intelligence at higher levels. Look at Jesus. He was a master. He knew precisely when to go in and out of those scenarios, and he knew precisely when he was entering a realm where people inevitably would react in a certain way. That is the greatest master of emotional social intelligence we've ever had on earth, ever. He knew precisely, way before things unfolded, how his actions would have repercussion in people's feelings and how they would even react. That's the highest level of emotional intelligence, which is a part of social intelligence. So here is something for us to think about. Where am I in regards to my social intelligence? Are you taking your courses to boost it up? There are many things that need to be taken care of. Creating greater awareness of it is very important. One of the things nowadays is to learn how to use our social media wisely and be a peacemaker. Right? Yes. Personally, sometimes I wanna say things, and my conscience or the good spirits, they say, Vanessa, ponder, ponder, because is it really necessary that you display your opinion? Why don't you keep it for yourself? Hmm? I say, okay, that's a good take on it. Our dear friend Adilson is here saying, consider the positive determination of judge not. How can we discern good from evil without judgment? Question 63, is that what it is? Adilson, between judging and discerning, there is always great distance. Judgment for the specification of definite consequences belongs to the divine authority, but the right of analysis, yeah, it looks like a manual. Thank you, a book that is yet to be translated. So he says, judgment of the specification of definite consequences belongs to divine authority, but the right of analysis is instituted for our spirits so that by discerning good and evil, error and truth, creatures can trace the guidelines for your best path to God. Beautiful words by Emmanuel. Thank you, Adilson. That's the beauty of our togetherness here, is really to make us feel the scriptures. Okay? We're allowed to analyze. Mhm. Because we need to ponder for our own selves. That happens in the spiritual realm because each one of us has a zone of influence. And when we're unaware, we need others to help us so we can regenerate ourselves. So then Andre Luis has more to share with us. He says that this jury is composed of spirits who are deeply versed in law, right? In the law, the true law, the divine law, and have profound notion of guilt, redemption, error, correction, human psychology, and social sciences. Are you surprised? Hmm? Are you surprised? We need to know. Hmm. So the jury is not any jury. When you do jury duty, you may not know any of this, and you're there. That's how imperfect human society still is, right? On Earth, we're yet to evolve and be more responsible in regards to who really has it to participate in that decision regarding justice. Hmm? So let's observe. They need to know about law. Well, if you study the Spirit's Book, part 3 of the Spirit's Book, there you go. You're going to have it for yourself as an opportunity of being versed in the law of God. I'm not saying just reading, studying, meditating, reflecting, and really elaborating it. And then topics that are related to, look at this, understanding of the human mind and social sciences. What is guilt? What is redemption? How does it impact in our lives? What is error? And how do we correct ourselves? So if we keep studying what we're studying in Spiritism, at some point it's going to expedite our profile to be of help in that regard. I'm not saying I'm dreaming about being a jury. I don't think it's anybody's dream because it takes responsibility. But we're just saying any duty in life has a job description, like a role has a job description, and this one is clear cut. So when we're studying Spiritism, we're marching towards also being useful in that regard. Usually people think about being useful as physicians, nurses, therapists, but we also need volunteers who are responsible, loving, caring, compassionate to help people in regards to their own making of their regeneration. hmm So probably we never thought about this, huh? But that's something to do as well. It's in our to-do list to one day participate in that regard. And it's noble. It's noble. It's like being a co-creator, helping one another adjust themselves and ourselves. Okay? Food for thought. He continues. He says more. The sentences, because we're talking about the mechanisms of justice in the spiritual realm, now he talks about harmonious sentences. He says the sentences or information given are harmonious before the divine providence and conjugated in love that illuminates and wisdom that sustains. And you may be saying, wow, it's almost like a dream, and it is. We don't understand yet this full spectrum of the balance between justice, love, and charity. Mercy. There's not only that cold justice without love and without charity, wisdom, right? Love sheds light. Wisdom can give the foundation of it all to that mechanism of justice. But observe a word here. As any study, these spirits are precise with the words. And he uses a word here we can't go by without paying attention. He says harmonious sentences. If you talk to people in the Justice Department who work in law, of course, this is far from actually being what it is on earth. And it's a sublimated concept of justice, let's say this way, because we're talking about harmonious justice in agreement with the divine law. In the book Spiritism in the Arts, Leon Denis talks about arts. And why am I mentioning this? Because when he talks about the definition of art, he says that the true art brings harmony, beauty, the concept of justice. He says it's this it is this search for the just, the good, and the beautiful. At the end of the day, the making of art and the making of the laws, like justice, the mechanisms of justice, they have a common end, which is harmony. Harmony is to be aligned with the divine. That's what it is. So the sentences are weighted in love, charity, and justice. Three pillars that really make it be just, harmonious. I think this concept is so ethereal for us that we cannot even sometimes grasp what it is. Because we'll say, but that person needs to pay for it. That person, we're not talking about it. We're just saying how this is going to happen. And again, as every chapter when we discuss, we talk about parents and children. When we read this chapter, it also reminds us of how we educate our children and become often the very judges of the children we educate, giving them often sentences. You're grounded. You are not going to do this and that and the other. So we are rehearsing. I know many parents who are confused, like, what should I do? It's almost like they need to create their own constitution, right? If they do this, this is going to happen as a consequence. But pondering with love to make sure that we are educating. And that's why the needed harmony. So we would lay it out to all parents and educators here, according to what Andrea Luiz is revealing to us. Okay? And Leon Denis, in the book Spiritism in the Arts, a good focus for parents and educators overall is educate for harmony, to boost harmony. So the proposal must be harmonious. That's why the sentences of this jury of the courts in the spiritual realm become harmonious, because the end point is to educate. Are you feeling lighter now? Less judged and more loved? Right? Like a child. They misbehaved. We're not going to spank. Please don't. That's a no-no. We're not going to bash them. But what we're going to do? We're going to learn how to apply harmonious sentences. How do we do it, huh? That's another course for another day, but food for thought for us, okay? So, here we are. Let's go back to Andrea Luiz and see what else he reviews to us. He says, there are different types of discarnate delinquents. And he says, there are those in both terrestrial and spiritual planes. And he says, there are those who recently discarnated and they need to go for trials. Okay? There, we, Andrea Luiz is revealing to us who is going to be present in these courts, right? Who are they? Who are they? So they are individuals who needed to go through that trial. There are discarnate entities that often succumb to passions and unmentionable whims while in the fulfillment of certain tasks. How pertaining to the current fuss of the media about certain things. The problem is on earth, who can ever say they've never succumbed to their own whims? whether a minor thing or a big thing. So it is on us now to understand that when we incur in those mistakes, we will potentially be brought to that jury, to that court. And he reveals important rules. He says, the lower the evolutionary level of the culprits, the more strict is the trial by the authorities. Meaning, we need to be more strict because we're still working at more primitive levels. Observe school life. A baby is constantly under the watch care of the caregivers. Toddlers, and then kindergartners. As we evolve in our school years, we become freer and freer and freer. Of course, the consequences of our actions will be pondered by the school system, right? But in some point, it's going to be very strict because of the harm that it can do to others who are with you at the same level and the fragility of their lives. And he says more, the more cultural and advanced is the individual, the more complex is the examination of the dossier of crime entangled. It's a beautiful statement because I feel so much humility in André Luiz when he shares this concept with us, because he's revealing to us that it's not like 2 plus 2 equals 4. The equation in regards to the mechanism of justice in the true life, the spiritual realm, is not simple. And it requires a lot of work. So next time we think about being of help, that's a field to help as well. And it's about healing, because we're talking about these shrines and courts in the spiritual realm being healing places as well. And André Luiz showing to us how loving and caring they are, and how sensitive they are to all the different angles of our lives. So let us breathe in and out and feel the joy of reading this in this chapter. This chapter doesn't come to us to say, you're going to be judged no matter what, and pay attention. They're going to say, don't worry in regards of being judged, because here the higher spirits, they have love. They're not partial. They want what's best for you and for everybody else. They're fair. They respect your right, but they also respect other people's right. Justice. And the more we evolved, when we make a mistake, it's a little more complicated. We cannot judge, as Aldilson kindly shared here with us. We cannot judge. We can evaluate, ponder, and yet not know exactly the full spectrum of it all. It's like a house. If you are a little ant on this side of the house, you may see one thing. If you have an helicopter, and you're human, you can see much better the whole house from all different angles, right? And if you have a drone, you can take picture and see much more than you could do just by walking around. So that's it. We can see further down the more we evolve, and also we can ponder much more carefully if the one who is being evaluated has a complexity of experiences and yet in need of readjustment. So the sentences are harmonious. They bring healing and regeneration. They boost the potential for being readjusted to do. It's like a harmonious recalculation. Okay? And there are two reasons for the complexity of such cases, he says. Because it depends on the influence of the crime they had on to others' destiny. So next time, this is our homework, okay? The main homework for us. What is the impact of my decisions in my life onto people's lives? What is my influence onto people's destiny? Sometimes we're not fully aware. And I say this, and I'll give an example. Some people come and say, but who am I? And I would reply, you are a child of God like me. And if I see that you are doing the, as best as you can, it's going to impact on me too. Really? Oh yeah. The other day, I told a friend she works out every day at 5 a.m. And I was like, please keep posting your posts on Facebook. Because when I see that you post, I feel motivated not to do the same, but at least to take care of myself physically as well. And she's like, really? Does that have any impact on you? And I said, you have no idea. No idea. And she's a wonderful housekeeper. And she wasn't aware of her impact in others' lives. Yes. So when I put a post, I am influencing others. Social media. Our influence now is greater than 10 years ago, than 20 years ago, because we're influencing in a broader spectrum, globally speaking. No matter if we are anonymous to the rest of the world or famous, we all have our zone of influence. So that's our homework to do, to practice that inner awareness. It's our conscience. Boost the consciousness, knowing that in our conscience we have that inbuilt system. So if I'm doing this, is that going to benefit? How is the impact of this onto other people's lives? Okay, that's the homework for today. Andre Luiz has a little more to share with us before we wrap up. We're just one information away. And he says, it depends also, that complexity of the cases, on the individual's conscience. When adjusted to the awareness of his own mistakes, the spirit is anxious to rehabilitate himself before life and before those whom he loves most. Thus, the spirit supplicates for the punitive sentence he recognizes essential for his rehabilitation. So that's why the complexity of it all, because the higher we are in the scale of spiritual evolvement, when we make a mistake, our own conscience is going to be demanding on us more quickly the rehabilitation. So that's why we say the more we know, the more responsible we become. If you watch the movie Spider-Man, there is a sentence that I like very much from the movie. With great powers come great responsibility. So, and the power of knowing, of evolving, and its impact. A little child is less responsible and has less of an impact in terms of the consequences than an adult, because the adult knows more, is more fully aware. Spiritually speaking, the rule applies. If we could summarize it all to have some form of north for us, so we won't be afraid and we will end up in the highest note, igniting the fire of our hope, okay? as André Luiz says, enjoying our immortality and being joyful every day that we are immortal. We are progressing. There is no regressing. We would end with this study again with Kardec. Question and answer 642. Everyone must do good to the best of their abilities, and everyone will answer for all the evil that has resulted from the good they left undone. So, this is a lot of food for thought for us. This is an opportunity for us to do more, don't you think so? The study of the book Evolution into Worlds ends today, tonight, in the highest tone. We're very grateful to the friends in the incarnate plane who joined us, and especially to those who helped us unfold these beautiful teachings, Shane Martin and Marco Magalhães, and our friend Adriano Barbo too. And we're very grateful that you remained with us throughout this journey. For now, we want to just summarize that this study comes to empower us, and the empowerment comes in knowing that it's a must, it's in the law that we do the good. So let us do the good, do the good, do the good with the best of our abilities, and let us not leave the good undone because there will be consequences. So, are you feeling the love? Throughout this book, we learned about the journey of being created, evolving from previous stages of consciousness to the stage we are now. The next level after being human is the angelic. We don't know what it is, but we know that it begins with fulfilling God's laws and doing the good always. Keep on marching to that direction. Let us all keep on marching towards that direction and spread the good, seek the good, feel the good, visualize the good, mold the good with all the resources we have at hand. And that's the spirit of Christmas. If you're listening to this past Christmas Day, remember Christmas shall be every day. And that's the feeling, the joy of the coming of the Christ who shared to us the good news. And thus Emmanuel reinforces, let us seek the good. We're destined to be good. Okay, friends, good friends, I thank you very much, and a big hug, much love. Let us be grateful to God that we were allowed to complete this series of studies. There is more. Tomorrow at Kardec Radio, we're going to have a special program with youth, teenagers talking about suicide in adolescence at 11 a.m. here at Kardec Radio. And then between then and the end of the year, we may come up some nights talking to you about the feeling of Christmas and preparing for the new year. And then next year in 2019, I can share with you, we're going to be studying here the books Instruções Psicofônicas, Psychophonic Instructions, okay? It's under translation. Voices of the Great Beyond, Vozes do Grande Além, messages that were received by Chico Xavier from several different spirits and were imprinted in those books, followed by mechanisms of mediumship. So there's a lot in the pipeline of Kardec Radio next year, and we have beautiful friends joining us. For now, I'll give you a big hug of gratitude, much love, and let us keep doing the good wherever we are. Until tomorrow, God willing.